10 candidates made tonight's debate stage, with the former HUD Secretary Julian Castro failing to qualify this time around. The candidates will once again be positioned according to the frontrunner status, former Vice President Joe Biden and Elizabeth Warren sitting in the middle. They are flanked by Senators Bernie Sanders and Mayor Pete Buttigieg, and in the outer wings are Senator Cory Booker and billionaire Tom Steyer.
Since the October debate, a few candidates have dropped out. A few others have stepped in. The contenders have also churned out several plans that might come up during the night. Here to share some of the candidates' narratives to look for tonight is The Hill's political reporter, Julia Manchester. She is on the ground in Atlanta. Great to see you, lady.
Thanks for having me this morning.
Yeah. Of course. So what are you watching for tonight?
Right. So a lot has changed since the last debate just last month. I think number one, we're going to be watching for any fallout or any reactions to today's impeachment hearings. We know that this week the public inquiries the public hearings we've seen within the past couple of weeks have made quite a bit of headlines. And we know that Joe Biden is kind of right in the middle of them. So we're going to look for any reaction on that. But we've also seen some shifts in the polls. 2 weeks ago, Elizabeth Warren was probably the favorite to win Iowa. However, we've seen Pete Buttigieg really soar in the state, and he's also soaring in the early primary state of New Hampshire. And a recent St. Anselm poll released yesterday showed him at the top of the pack in the Granite State. So Pete Buttigieg could be a new target among a number of the Democratic presidential hopefuls tonight. So we'll have to really watch out for that. But we'll also watch out for any fire that Elizabeth Warren could take over her Medicare for All plan. Remember, a couple of weeks ago, she released her transition plan as to how she would pay for that plan, how she would transition the country from an Obamacare system to a Medicare for All system. And we're seeing the Buttigieg and Biden camps continue to really go after her on that. So she's going to be a target. Buttigieg is going to be a target. We'll see how Sanders and Biden try to fit into the mix. But this is really the last debate that we'll see before the field really starts to winnow. So you're going to see the other maybe lesser known candidates or candidates that aren't polling as high, such as maybe an Amy Klobuchar, Tulsi Gabbard, Andrew Yang. They're probably going to try to make some headlines as well to try to get onto the next debate stage and, further on ahead of the primaries.
Right. So right now, I think what we're predicting, Julia, is that Buttigieg and Warren are particularly both going to have to go at each other. I mean, Buttigieg's rise has very much come at her expense. He's going to take, I think, some incoming fire from some of the other candidates. And then Elizabeth Warren as well. You're right on that Medicare for All subject. I mean, ultimately, it seems like a big contest between the two of them. Do you think that the moderators are going to set it up that way, in terms of critical questions here?
I think that's very possible. Pete Buttigieg has gotten quite a bit of media attention due to his rise and, from the policies he's put out. And so has Elizabeth Warren. And I think within the past couple of weeks, we've seen this narrative emerge. And a lot of this is thanks to Pete Buttigieg's campaign for pushing this. But really, this narrative showing Elizabeth Warren as the standard bearer for the progressive wing of the party and Pete Buttigieg as the standard bearer for the establishment wing of the party. So we're going to see that kind of dynamic between the two of them emerge. But one thing I would like to point out is we could also see Joe Biden, who before Buttigieg's rise was the standard bearer for the centrist wing of the party. He could try to take some swipes at Buttigieg as well and really try to come out ahead of him in that regard. So we'll have to see how this plays out. And remember, Sanders will definitely try to make some headlines as well.
Absolutely. And for whom is this a make or break moment, really? I mean, you mentioned there are quite a few on there who are running low on cash. They're sort of struggling in the polls. Who needs to make something happen tonight for their campaign even to continue?
I think you're going to see some of the candidates that I mentioned before, the candidates that aren't polling as high. Cory Booker, Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris has actually cut quite a bit of her staff in Iowa and New Hampshire. She's going to most likely try to really get as much attention tonight as she can to make some headlines there. We saw that over the summer. She had that big breakout moment against former Vice President Joe Biden, really came out against, bringing up the fact that he came out against busing, earlier in the 1970s, 1960s. So we're probably going to see her try to replicate some of that, trying to make some headlines, if you will. But, also for Tulsi Gabbard, Andrew Yang, they have been making headlines as their own during the campaign. However, they're continuing not to poll as well. So they're going to try to come out ahead as well.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Thank you, Julia.
Interesting. Thank you, Julia.
Thank you.
Yep.
Coming up, the top 4 candidates have a lot to lose and to gain with Democratic debate number 5.
We're going to talk expectations for the current frontrunners with our panel when Rising continues.